Good evening and welcome to the October 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Conservation Commission. We're meeting at the Gala Meeting Room, Fox Town Hall, 40 South Street. This meeting will be broadcast live and recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. It being 7 o'clock, I'll open the meeting. Do we have any public comments? If not, I'll take the opportunity to thank the members of Lutheran Church here in Foxborough for their coastal sweep, which is a nationwide cleanup of the shores of the lakes, ponds, and rivers and the ocean. But they did a sweep at the Lane property for the Neponset Reservoir. A lot of paper, bottles, cans, you name it, were cleaned out. The most unusual thing we picked out was a frying pan. Somebody left it behind. But again, thank you for the members of the Lutheran Church for doing that. Okay. Dave, do you want to do some minutes while we're... Got a minute or two?
We have the minutes of September 25th, 2023. Members present was Bob, Jim, myself, Peter, Rich, and Tanya. And as far as I'm concerned, I think these minutes are very accurate. And basically, the biggest thing on there was a continued public hearing for 7 Perry Drive.
Okay. So you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of 9:25.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Diana, Beaumont's Pond Dam.
Yeah, so they wanted to start doing work, and they thought while we were in the COVID state of emergency, all permits were tolled for 400 some odd days, but they had to have been active as of March 2020. This order wasn't signed until October 2020, so it just expired the beginning of this month. So they want to start doing the work on the tree removal, I think they were doing. So we need to grant them an extension so that they can do this.
So you have it.
Shoot. Oh, yeah, here it is.
Bob, I have a little bit of a concern on this. Just because it's been 3 years, they've done nothing.
Yes.
And their plan initially, if I recall right, is to clear the land and then at some point rebuild the dam.
It was 2 parts.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was lack of funds, I believe, which is what was driving it.
Right.
So I'd like to see the funds available or something that they're going to do it within a certain time period as opposed to stripping the land
And
then leaving it bare. Because there's a lot of big trees there.
Yes.
There's
yeah.
a big oak tree that's coming down, which will have a large root system.
Right.
Do we have something in the order that talks about the sequence?
It's
Nothing,
not,
problem.
I don't remember the exact sequence.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
I'm just concerned it's going to sit there idle.
gotcha.
Definitely was 2 parts. And if they only remove the vegetation and don't touch the soils, you're not going to have erosion. You'll have tire mark activities because you need skidders in there to some of those trees. But that's the only thing that'd be roughed up on the upper part.
Right, but if it sits there idle for a number
For
of
an
years,
extended period of time.
they've been talking about doing this dam for a long time. That's my only concern, is
Yeah.
that the funds will not get there.
Just sit,
They'll
and
just
then-
sit stripped.
Yeah, and if the roots decay,
Roots will decay pretty quick, yeah.
yeah.
And then
You gotta
again,
have a lot
all the
of
plants will
seepage.
come in.
What's that?
With total exposure to the sun, everything will start growing, which adds more buffer, to the soil.
But if the roots start decaying on that big oak tree, you're going to have a lot of seepage through there if they don't repair the dam.
That's my concern, my major concern, yeah. And it is coming through
It
it
looks
now.
like it's all boilerplate conditions. I don't see any special conditions in this order.
We can't extend it with conditions, or?
That's not the way the form works. It just generally gives it a date to extend it to. I mean, I have the guy's email if you want to,
Yeah, I
if
think we
anybody
should
wants
probably
to
talk to him,
talk to him.
and we can put it on the agenda for next meeting.
All right. But can you sign this in the meantime to get it back in compliance? This just extends the order, and then if you want to come in and talk about the sequence of work and everything.
Well, by extending the order, don't you give them permission to do it?
When did it expire?
October 5th.
Oh, so they might, you know, the worst case scenario, they'd have to file a full new
I don't know
notice.
why.
Yeah, let's have them come in.
All right, so you want to hold off on this?
Yeah. Have him come in on the 6th.
Maybe ask them to give us a plan that actually states what the activities are going to be, then you'll know specifically if they're going to do any digging or anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're coming in a long ways from the street,
Yeah, they're coming
Right.
in from East Street.
which means they'll be stripping a lot of that woods.
Yeah, because the
Yep.
equipment, the
Yeah.
path is very narrow. All right,
So just a lot going on there.
okay. It being 7:05 PM, we have a request for determination pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. The Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, October 23rd, 2023, at 7:05 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, and/or via Zoom on a request for determination of applicability filed by Edward Butler for the addition of a farmer's porch at 69 Lakeview Road, Assessors Map 77, Parcel 9, within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. Mr. Butler.
Good evening, excuse me. I've been having a long
Catch
day.
it, yeah.
Yes, I was to the buildings permit and talked to the board, conservation people in the office. I am within about 50 feet of the wetlands behind my house. The farmer's porch is going on the front of the house. And I would like to pass this out.
Sure.
Thank you. So the first paper is the plans. Okay. And the other three are pictures of the front of the house, one side of the house, and the edge of the wetlands on the back side of the house. As you can see, you got probably a bigger picture than I do on the plans.
Yeah.
That the wetlands is described as behind the house. On the top, the farmer's porch is going to be directly in front of it. The first picture is the front of the house. Ignore the Halloween decorations.
Well, I'm assuming you're not going to start until after Halloween with the
Yeah, I'm
the
not
amount of
going to start till springtime.
Okay,
It's a little late to start now.
yeah, with the amount of decorations you have out there.
If anybody's been down there, I've got
I
a
have
lot.
been, yes.
So, the only thing I'm going to be using that's just a machine is like a gasoline hand auger bit for 6 footings for the deck. Other than that, everything's going to be hand tools. So that's all I'm looking for on the approval. Since I'm within 100 feet, which is actually about 50 feet.
The back of the house, yeah,
Yeah, actually 50 feet to the front of the house.
okay.
Which actually, the wetlands is actually getting closer to my house. The wetlands was actually dug out by mosquito control back in between 81 and 83, trenched out to drain. And now I got trees falling down, everything behind it, and now the water's coming closer to my house. So I may have to talk to you guys again in the future, how we can fix that.
Okay.
But this is, my main objective right now is the porch.
As I say, I was down there. I do not see any problem with that. Anybody else able to get down?
I did not, no.
I drive by it multiple times a day, because I just live around the corner, so I'm pretty familiar with it. I mean, it's basically driveway.
Driveway, yeah. So it's coming
Not
8
disturbing
feet,
anything,
8
yeah.
feet closer to the street.
Yep.
So it's all driveway.
Do you need a building permit for that?
I'm on the way of doing the building permit, but this was
In the way.
first
In the way, yeah.
in the way. I don't want to say in the way, it's part of the
One
project.
step one.
Being an construction electrician, I know projects and stuff like that, so this was the first thing on the agenda. So,
No problems. No questions.
It's fine. Dave? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Brought a friendly crowd. Somebody want to make a motion for a negative determination?
I will say that John, I sent this to our interim conservation agent, John. So he sent back a couple of suggested conditions for the negative under 6. So it said sediment controls to be installed between the limited work area and the wetland resource area, and also low-impact development residential roof runoff system to be installed, i.e. gutters.
yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah, subsurface dry well, et cetera. And that was his 2 conditions with number 6 under negative.
Well, the gutters are going to be relocated from the front to the front of the porch anyway, so.
Okay?
So if you want to do the negative with those 2 conditions.
Yeah, if you're fine with those 2 conditions.
Can you, can I
The
get-
first one is sediment, so the, what do you call those things?
Silt
Silt socks, but like at the boundary of the wetlands in the back,
oh, yeah,
so that nothing goes back there.
yeah, well, nothing's going to, but it, yeah.
Pretty fine.
Yeah. Let's see, I could, so somebody want to make the motion?
Make a motion for a negative determination with the 2 stipulations for the silt sock and, what was the other one?
Gutters?
You got it.
Gutters, oh, yeah. For 69 Lakeville Road, map 77, page 9.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
All
Right.
Opposed? And by the way, negative is good for you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Uh, 16 Community Way, 1 Brandon Lane, DEP file 157318, request for a partial certificate of compliance.
I think there's a lawyer right there
Okay,
to talk on this one.
can you hear us?
James Griffin here. I was the applicant on this one for the request.
Could you get a little bit closer to the mic, please?
Oh, sorry about that.
And we didn't get your name.
Wait,
Attorney Jim Griffin, I sent in the request for this.
Okay,
I represent the current owner, David and Dawn Minkin. This was originally, the order condition was issued back in 1999. For whatever reason, this was not requested in due course at that point. The current owners are now preparing to sell the house. They have a closing date of November 2nd. Unfortunately, this issue came up through the bank's attorney during her title search. And as soon as we found out about it, I made the petition with all the information that I had available.
so this is the first house on the right going in?
That is correct. Top of the hill to the right.
Okay. I see no, do you have any issues with that you know of, Diana?
No,
I don't recall any problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, the house has been there since 1999.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So, someone want to make a motion to issue a partial certificate?
I'll make a motion to issue a partial certificate for 69 Lakeview Road.
No,
Oh.
16 Community Way.
Oh. 60, I'm reading the wrong one. Okay, that's why we, okay. 16 Community Way. Lot 1, Brandon Lane?
Yes.
Okay. Map 84 and 97.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
And the other lot has had a previous release, so that one was all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get the paperwork to you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We have requests for 7 Shoreline Drive, DEP 157168, request for a certificate of compliance.
This is the same idea. This was a house that was built in 1989. This order of conditions had to do with the pool. And the original owners had lived there all this time, and now they're selling, they're selling the house. So this was found in the title chart, so.
Okay. Any questions up here? Somebody want to make, any questions from the audience? Okay, somebody want to make a motion for certificate of compliance for 157168? That goes back a year or two.
I'll make a motion for certificate of compliance for 157-168, 7 Shoreline Drive.
Seconded.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
I have 2 more for the next meeting already, too. So the banks are doing deep dives on things again.
Oh, wow, interesting. We have 29 Baker Street. Mr. Lord? Who's coming up?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Lauren Gluck, Senior Environmental Scientist with Power Corporation, here representing Bill Lord of 29 Baker Street. I am currently trying to load up my file to share on the screen. However, it's a large GIS map, so it's taking a little bit. I do have paper copies for everybody.
Okay.
to look at.
Okay, I think I probably have that
Are they in
set.
color or?
Mine are.
Oh, yours.
Yeah, I did, yeah. He gets the color copy.
Oh, you can. Okay, I have color for everybody. Maybe my computer will load up here on the screen, but it's still loading up. So tonight, we're here to talk about the enforcement and restoration order issued to Bill for some backyard landscaping activity at 29 Baker Street. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to go into the background at all. I know you've all been familiar with the goings-on with the property. So essentially, we were hired by Bill to take a look at the resource areas present, to assess what potential violations had occurred within the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Foxborough bylaw. So on October 3rd, me and my colleague went out to the site to do an assessment. I had met with Bill very briefly in August to take a brief look at the conditions on the site. At that time, I had seen, there's a depression present in the rear of the property. It was holding a few inches of water. Took a look around and took a look at the activities that had been done. in the backyard that were of concern within the potential commission's jurisdiction. So on October 3rd, we visited the site and did a formal review and delineation of what was present and what we believe the classifications of those features to be. So in front of you, I have figure 1 is the existing conditions plan, and then figure 2 is more of a detailed look at the delineation and the flagging. So as Bill has, I think, provided you some background, this depression at the rear of the property was historically excavated to manage stormwater at a low point in town where water tends to collect. And since then, it's become overgrown. A portion of it is forested. The wetland actually extends to the north onto a open space parcel. And then toward the south, it actually slopes up a bit and becomes more channel-like. So when I was out there, I was really focusing in on, what are the different characteristics of this area, the hydrology characteristics, the soils, the visual indicators of flow, et cetera. On your map, you'll see several different line types, and those indicate just the different features we were looking at to make these determinations. In green, you'll see that's what we determined to be a boundary of a vegetative wetland. As I mentioned previously, this feature was previously known to be an excavated depression. Since then, it's overgrown, and now some of it's forested, some of it's shrub wetland. It has hydric soils, so it would qualify as an isolated vegetative wetland under the bylaw, which would include anything over 500 square feet in size. We also took a look at the limits of flooding. So in blue dashed line, we actually circled the entire perimeter of where the boundary of the flooding observed was, not just the flooding that was there when we were out there, but the water staining on the ground that indicates the maximum extent of flooding. So you see a lot of that is actually offsite to the north on the conservation property. But it encompasses most of this green wetland area. So most of the green wetland area is flooded, and then there's areas along the margins of the wetland that have a more saturated hydrology. That flooded area was approximately a 1/4 acre in size, and most of it appeared to only hold about 3 to 5 inches max, like during a max flooding event based on watermarks. There are a few spots where when we were out there, it was about 6 inches deep. That was just a couple isolated spots. The rest of it at the time we were out there was 1 to 3 inches. And then based on the watermarks, like it might flood a couple inches more than that during a big storm event. And we've had a really rainy summer. So it was probably near the peak of what it would normally be during a typical year. And then in yellow, at the southern extent of the delineated area, it's a separate series. You'll see on figure 2 with the actual flag numbers. We called this the CH series. So this was an area that was distinct from this vegetative wetland area. I think all of you or most of you have been out there. So you've probably seen, the shrub wetland kind of at the rear of the backyard where it drops off, and then there's kind of a seasonally flooded depression. The southern extent of that is more swale-like. And historically, it was likely just a roadside swale. It's linear. Most of it is unvegetated. The banks of it, I guess, would be considered some hydrophytes, some upland species. It was early successional. So that area I wanted to distinguish as non-jurisdictional because it was climbing up slope. It's more channelized. And also, it does appear to be regularly maintained as part of the roadway maintenance for the drainage. The spark arrestor ditch, which is the linear ditch on the other side of Railroad Avenue, has similar characteristics to that, which is also a non-jurisdictional feature that is maintained for drainage. So that area we're calling non-jurisdictional. Now this area is where Mr. Lord had placed a equipment crossing for when he was doing his backyard clearing activities and needed access to get to that part of the site. So there was some fill material placed across that, and it was at the natural kind of narrow point of this complex, which we believe to be a non-jurisdictional drainage channel. So that on your figure is hatched in orange. That's about 395 square feet of material, but we're calling it non-jurisdictional. And then in addition, if you recall, the backyard, after the trees were removed, there was some grading done to level out the slope. So with that, there was some material placed along the slope, which was encroaching very close to the edge of the wetland, which I think at the time of your visit, you were suspecting, okay, there could be some wetland encroachments here, fill of vegetative wetlands. So what we did in that area, the green designates where the line is now. The red, you'll see it bumps out from the green at a point in the backyard. That's where, based on some soil assessments we did a lot of augering in his backyard to kind of get down and see, all right, where does this fill material end? Where is the native soil? And what's underneath? And are we finding wetland soils underneath? So in that red area is where we were finding some hydric soil characteristics beneath the fill material. That was mostly redox. There was a little bit of glaying in the soils. We did find that as we were climbing up the slope, we were finding some pretty unreliable soils. There was a layer of, it must be manure. Like when I pulled it out, it smelled like a farm. And I guess there was some historic or previous keeping of animals perhaps in this area, or compost piles in the woods. So we were finding some very strange layers of organic material that was definitely some type of animal waste related material. So it wasn't necessarily a nice traditional soil profile, but there was a distinct area where we were finding the redox features, and that was where the contours actually, the LiDAR contours shown on your map there, they bump out a little bit, and it kind of makes sense with the topo of the area. And in fact, while we were out there, that area did seem to be a natural, it had been filled, but it became kind of a natural collector for when the storm events happened, all the grass seed was washing and sitting there. So you'll see that we have 391 square feet of vegetated wetland fill. That's what we believe would have been, based on our assessment, the filling of this isolated vegetated wetland, which in the report at the end, we talk about recommendations. So the next step is to submit this draft restoration plan to the commission. Our recommendation would be for that area that the material be removed to the native soil layer, planted with, an assortment of native species, trees, shrubs, seed mix, and then also the surrounding area. So this, we're calling this an isolated vegetative wetland. It does not meet the criteria of an ILSF under the Wetlands Protection Act. So this would be jurisdictional under the bylaw, but not the Wetlands Protection Act. And also in our review, we found that the isolated wetland would not have an associated 25-foot or 100-foot buffer zone. So the enforcement order does talk a bit about requirements for buffer restoration. In this case, there would not be a buffer. However, Mr. Lord does intend to do some plantings and some enhancements in those areas that he had been planning to do anyway, like a pollinator meadow, some different native trees, and just, native species to enhance the backyard and create this permaculture type of garden. One other thing that I had not mentioned was along the wetland edge, you'll see it called out in figure 1 where it says logs from downed trees. So Mr. Lord's intention was to create some hugelkultur mounds, which is, you might be able to explain it better, but it's garden beds that are made from naturalized materials where they naturally hold the moisture, and then you can grow plants kind of out of that organic material. And so his intent was, after these downed trees were removed, to reuse those as part of the hugelkultur mounds and plant some native species, some berry-producing plants that are native to the area in those. And they were placed in an area that we found to be kind of the wetland upland border. So on the slope coming down from the wetland from the backyard across there. So we would request the commission would consider allowing that material to stay, since it's native to the site. It was already placed there. Taking it out would likely disturb some vegetation, and his intent is to plant it with natives, I believe possibly blueberries or raspberries, that would enhance the ecological value of the area. So that's kind of the summary. The rest of the wetland edge, we did take a close look along. You'll see where the wetland kind of turns along the northern property boundary and goes kind of climbs upslope to the west. We took a look along there, and it didn't look like there had been any filling of wetlands in that location. It seemed to match the historic edge of wetland there. We did find along the edge of the wetland some upland species indicating, okay, this is kind of a border area. It's not dominated by hydrophytes. And then it kind of also matches with the LiDAR, where the LiDAR shows the topo going that way, as it is. So it was really just the one little bump out area that we're calling out as vegetated wetland fill. The crossing, we did make a recommendation there that if there is to be any crossing to remain there, that there would need to be some type of a hydrologic connection so that the water that's making its way down the slope isn't impounded there, which after this summer, I think it happened a bit because we had a lot of rain. So, you know, maintaining that flow downslope into the wetland as it did
So
before.
he did not put a culvert or anything, okay.
No, but we made the recommendation that, you know, the hydrologic connection should remain, and it would probably look like adding a culvert, having to, you know, probably talk to the commission, make sure the commission's aware of what's going on, because it's very close to the wetland.
On the access road that was made, how do you determine that different than the land that was right next to it, which is wetlands?
I took a look at the plant community, but also kind of the physical characteristics. So where it's shown in yellow as the channel, it's more of a linear, like a straight channel. It's pretty uniform in width, 20 to 25 feet. And then at a point just downslope of the crossing, it really opens up into more of what I would call a braided, not even a channel. It became more of just like a basin-like area where the channelized flow kind of dissipates and flattens out into the wetland area, and it becomes a vegetated interior. Whereas the CH series area, it was, you know, standing or flowing water going downslope into the wetland, with some wetland plants on the edges, but it had more of a bank-like character. And since it's up gradient of the wetland, it wouldn't be considered a stream.
I thought when I was last there that it looked like there was a clear, it may have been dug out or whatnot, but including that driveway. In that if you're, I shouldn't call it a driveway, the access point that you did there. If you stand in the middle of it, look north, I thought there was still a bit of a swale.
Yeah, there is. So it's only a
So
short distance.
why would it stop all of a sudden right there?
Well, that was just, you kind of have to pick a point where it becomes more channel-like to where it becomes more vegetated wetland-like. So it's not an abrupt break necessarily, but it's just down, when you're looking down slope, it is swale-like, but then it becomes more vegetated in the interior. So more of a vegetated wetland with hydric soils as opposed to a linear, you know, ditch. And that crossing, you know, was strategically chosen because it was a narrow point in the
Well, yeah,
in the
it may have been
future.
a narrow point.
and
I'm
I
just
do
not
think.
sure how you make a determination of what's underneath the 3 feet of soil that have been filled there without, when you're making an assumption that it's not the same as the soil right next to it. I would make the opposite assumption that it is the same soil that's right next to it,
That's right next to.
right next to the vegetated wetlands that you've got here.
Yeah, but the morphology of it is a channel, so it flows down into the wetland, and it's a flowing water course rather than a vegetated wetland, and that's why I made that determination, because downslope of that point, it becomes there's trees, there's shrubs, there's all of this herbaceous vegetation, and up until that point, and it actually matches pretty closely with the LiDAR. It narrows, and it's been narrow, and it's been maintained as such, as a drainage channel for many years. And the rest of that wetland area, you know, maybe the fringe along Railroad Avenue has been cut over the years, but the rest of it has kind of naturalized, whereas that seemed a lot more of a linear drainage channel.
Okay. I still think it's pretty close to the same, but I may want to look at it again. I don't know. Did anybody else look at it?
I haven't looked at it in detail. I've been there, but I did not study that particular portion of it.
That's all.
Are
Anybody?
you likely to want to keep that access point in place and add a culvert or something? Or is it something that when you're done with this work, you would remove anyway?
No, the plan was, it was a hasty crossing. The plan was to add a culvert pipe that allows the hydraulic connection between the two overflow pipes.
Are you allowed to access the road from the roadway without a town curb cut or anything? Is that an issue?
We'd have to ask the planning board that.
Yeah, you might want to check in
That would be
to see if that's.
DPW,
Yeah. I think
not planning
implied.
board.
Yeah, highway.
yeah.
I drove by it, and, I mean, I hear what Rich is saying. I also understand what you're saying, too. I mean, this looks like it's been, I don't know what it looked like 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but it looks like this piece of land has been kind of morphed a couple of different times over, you know, whether people are keeping livestock there or whatnot, and made a mound for compost. So I don't really have strong feelings about it, honestly.
David, any comments?
No, they provided the information that we had recommended to say what type of resources there. That was the biggest question.
Yeah, because we didn't know where it began and where it ended, so that's the reason why we need the expert.
Yep.
You have anything?
I'm all set. I'm just looking forward to see what the plan is for restoration for the areas that you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's our next step, to submit that draft plan, hopefully for the next meeting. I
Okay.
don't know when the deadline for that is probably today, but the next available meeting,
Okay.
Oh, November 6th and November 20th, so for the next two meetings.
November 6th and November 20th. Okay, to be on November 6th, would you need materials by a certain date? For the-
Thursday before, so.
The Thursday before, okay. So that's next Thursday.
Yep. So I don't know if that's too soon. or-
Yeah, so what we're, I read the requirements in the restoration order of what's required to go on the plan. We were planning on just submitting something in a similar format, on a GIS overlay, showing the plantings with some notes and then some more detailed calculations and things like that. Along with, the plant types and that, substitutions would need to go through the Concom if it's not available, et cetera. Was there anything else that you can think of that would need to go on into that submission to set, and I think a narrative, right? Yeah, okay,
That would do it.
okay.
Would it be too late in the season to do plantings?
Likely, Mr. Lord was considering doing them in the spring if possible, doing all this work in the spring.
Let's see, why not? Everything's stabilized, it's fine.
Right, yeah,
Just wait till then.
yeah,
You spend a lot of money. You want to make sure it,
okay,
keeps.
exactly.
Jim, we have these deadlines in the order.
They could be changed.
Bring that up and,
Well, once we see the restoration plan,
okay.
next meeting.
Lauren, if you can, we do have an interim agent we're working with, so if you could get it earlier, then I could get it over to him.
Okay. So, get the restoration plan to you, like,
As soon as possible, I guess.
okay, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I'll get to it.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay. Since this isn't a filing or anything, we don't have to continue it.
No?
Okay,
So,
all right.
hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
That they donated, only they donated to town people.
Next, we have 46 Ridge Road, informal discussion.
Yep. So Dave coerced the lady that's for benefit. Road?
Hello.
Would have given.
Was it a different one?
Two for me. Oh, I see.
Stuck together.
Very detailed contour sheet.
It could be a limited project. This is not around.
Right.
You could get in from whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Diana, do you need one for the records?
I'll take one.
Good evening, Craig Siganowski, Rim Engineering, as well as the owners of the property, Jim and Teresa Hines. So we've actually been working on this property for the past 15 years or so for the previous owner, Michelle McWilliams. Tried to divide it into 2 lots, but because of we're in the zone 2 of the wetlands, the Water Resource Protection District, so the lots are 60,000 square feet, so we could not make 2 lots work on this, so she ended up selling to the Hines. And they're looking to do some restoration to the house and some additions on the existing house. I'm not sure what year the house was built, but it hasn't been lived in many years. It's in disrepair.
1958,
It's been there, so, yeah.
approximately.
So on the first sheet is the existing conditions. It has a gravel driveway that goes up to a detached 20-foot square garage, which is about 8 feet off the existing house. And the backyard, you walk out through the basement to a walkout area that's been leveled off about 25, 30 feet behind the house. And then as you can see, it drops right down to the reservoir. So we had flagged up the bank of the reservoir as well as a small portion of wetlands that comes in on the northeast corner. When we were trying to see if we could get 2 lots out of this. So on sheet 2 shows you what they would like to do. So the first thing would be to pave the driveway, as well as where the driveway onto the left, that is an existing gravel area. They just square it up a little bit, make it more useful, and pave the area. And then expand the garage from, it's only a 20 by 22, so make it into more of a, I think they wanted to add, the architect showed 13 feet, so about 30 feet wide by 24 feet deep, typical 2-car garage. And then remove the deck on the right side, which is in pretty bad condition, and add a sunroom with a deck off the rear. And then the architect was showing these walkways around the house, and we're looking to do a paver-type patio in the back. So the existing house is about 76 feet from the bank of the reservoir. The closest point, if we were to build it as it's shown here, would be about 58 feet from the paver patio down to the bank, and the 292 contour is about where the grade starts to drop off. There would be some tree clearing involved, or at least trimming of the limbs and so forth, to enhance the area. The 2 sides of the houses had been left as kind of slopes coming down into this patio area, and they would just be cleaned up a little bit and leveled off, and pretty much keep the grade as it is. But obviously, they would like to have some view to the lake. There are some trees, large pine trees right at the top of the slope that we would hope to at least cut but leave the stumps in place to enhance the view. And that's kind of why we're here before you tonight, to get an idea of what it is they would be allowed to do at that proximity to the slope. The proposed work would be less than an acre, and therefore we're not subject to the stormwater management, but we are in the Zone 2 Water Resource Protection District, so we would add roof water drains to capture, dry wells, or possibly a Caltech system to capture the water from the 2 roofs. That's a sunroom on the right side that they would remove the existing deck, and it's about a 240 square foot sunroom with an open deck off to the rear of that. And on like I said before, the garage would be expanded, and then there'd be some new pavement on the driveway. So those areas we would look to do infiltration from the roofs, as well as some stone trenching along the driveway to capture the water and infiltrate into the soil.
What is the vegetation along the bank up to the,
It's a heavily treed wooded from the lake all the way up. There's some areas that, levels off, and then, but there's some pine trees, mostly white pines, other native trees, but they are, the land hasn't been touched since, I don't know when anybody's been in there. So it's mostly white pine trees.
okay. Where is the septic system?
It's-
Where is it going to be?
It's in the front yard, and they did have a Title V, and it did pass. So it would be, where it shows the elevations, 297, 296 in the front of the house. That's about where the septic system sits. So there's no need to upgrade that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just looking at it, I mean, this would require a notice of intent.
Yeah.
You're obviously, there's some activity that's closer to the reservoir than that currently exists, right? We want to make sure that there's no impacts to the reservoir due to the slope. We're well outside the 25 foot, so there's no encroachment into that zone.
But within the 100-foot, definitely.
Yeah, but we're outside the 52 for the most, for all of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, my biggest concern would just be, which I think it sounds like just from what you were saying, stormwater flow off the proposed house and all the alterations to the in and around the driveway. You're adding a sunroom, a deck, a pavered patio. Just because of the, it's not right up on the reservoir, but it's close enough, and then it's such a steep slope there. Want to control that water.
Yeah. It really-
You want to do it anyways, just as you don't want any sort of erosion to the backyard and side yard.
Yeah, I think the two spurs that the previous people, when they constructed it, were the 297 down to the 293 behind the walkout, you had two slopes.
Yeah.
I think they just need to be cut down a little bit, because obviously there's very small trees in that area. They're like 4 to 5 inch pine trees, not mature. All the mature trees are at, like I said, around elevation 292, where the slope does start to drop off at basically a 2-to-1 slope.
Yep.
Very difficult to walk on. So in order to capture that water and create landscaping that's going to keep it, we do have to, this came to, I was not aware that the architect had filed to come before you, so I didn't have a chance to do any actual grading design or infiltration. But just looking at it, I think it's lawn right now in those slopes with small pine trees. And it's all gravel where the walkout is. There's no actual, when they did the walkout, they didn't put an actual pavement or a patio in place, so there's no impervious there now. So if we graded that down a little bit, made it a little bit smoother slope, put in the patio, and then runoff channels, and then brought that around to the sides where it's gravel, we connected to a roof drain for the sunroom and the deck. Well, the deck should probably not, I assume it's just a typical deck with that maybe crushed stone underneath, so that acts as infiltration as well. And then on the garage, capture that, bring it into an area outside the 100-foot buffer zone. It is all wooded, but in the front yard, we're outside your buffer, and the architect does intend to show some landscaping in the front. Obviously, the septic system's there, so we don't want to disturb that. But there is room for us to bring the infiltration outside of the 100-foot buffer and away from that slope. I just think it needs to be, very carefully maintained and designed and constructed, because it drops off extremely steeply over there.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost, I would put a fence there, because it is walking up and down to locate the topography. It's a very difficult slope to walk on.
Uh-huh.
Now, we can understand that you'd like to have a view of the reservoir and that, but you can also trim up, it's allowed to trim up the pine trees and that opens up the vista without actually taking down the pines. So that's another option, you know. But then again, the other concern will be how big are these pines, and then what's going to happen, you know, with wind. And the wind is coming in from the west, predominantly. So we can understand your concern, but there are other ways of looking at that vista thing. Only because you're doing this within the 100 feet, so there's more of a concern. Keeping the stumps in the ground is a good idea. I mean, it'll take a while for pine roots to actually deteriorate.
Were you going to put a berm on the paved parking around coming into the garage?
I think you would have to. It does drop off in that direction, again, down to the lake.
Yeah.
It looks like currently it all slopes down,
It
doesn't
all
it?
slopes down to that
Yeah.
area, yeah.
Solved area, yeah.
You're gonna raise it and level it, or are you just gonna,
No, it would have to be, I don't think you'd have to raise it, but maybe level it off and then slope it and then put a crushed stone trench along the driveway. That's typically what we do.
Okay.
Then it slows down the infiltration.
Slope it towards the front of the house.
Well, slope it away, but not as steep as it is today.
towards the water?
Right now, it's a bit steeper than what you'd want for a
Yeah.
driveway.
It's going towards the water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how that's how they're gonna keep it.
okay.
That's their intent to keep it.
Right, but then have it flow towards the front of the house, front of the yard. So, yeah, bring it down off the garage with a berm, carrying the water towards the street, and then let it go into a stone trench.
The intention is to tar it with regular tar, not pervious tar or anything like that.
Eventually, yeah, asphalt.
You looked into anything any asphalt that would help absorb some of the water as it came down, to limit the flow down towards the water?
Yeah, you can use pervious pavers, and obviously what's underneath is has to be done properly. It is. Problem with that is if you're not sweeping it, right, those holes in the pavement, if you're using pervious pavement, get clogged.
Yeah, I hear you, but you've still got, with the tar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's nothing.
completely impervious.
And the fact that you're gonna keep the slope going towards the water, I would suspect that the gravel pit, unless it's large enough and a bit of a swale, isn't gonna grab the water
Yeah.
on a heavy rain.
Yeah, again, we haven't really got into what they would actually do, but if we did, we'd have to put retaining walls, which may be an option, to raise that up so that, like you're saying, that
Yeah,
It's
or a
not-
swale that would actually be
not
large
just
enough to grab it. yeah.
sloping off down towards the existing, the way it goes now. Redirect it so that we're coming towards the road and then go down a stone trench.
I assume all this is sand?
Pretty much, it seems to be. We didn't do it, somebody did a test all over here actually, we don't know why that was done. Maybe they were,
By the septic, yeah.
yeah, it might have been done, but when they left it, you could see that it's all gravel. Pine forests are generally gravel, it'd have to be checked at the time.
Has anyone seen this?
I haven't been down yet.
I'd like to see it, I don't know.
Yeah, well, he's got to file an NOI.
Yeah, once the filing's in.
Yeah. Good, just get rid of this, you think?
I mean, the patio and back,
You could say that,
I'd definitely try and look at
did you follow? Or when you start
pervious
here,
pavers for that.
Diane would have a list of things that we think are,
Okay.
I don't want to give advice, I mean, it's not an open hearing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Guidelines. That's what they're looking for, guidelines.
Yeah.
So our intermediate has some items here that they listed for us as part of the notice of intent filing. But this is just sort of It's not an open hearing. I don't want to get into giving you advice as to what you should or should not put or include in your notice of intent. So this list would be available if you want to speak with Diane.
Okay.
Yeah. That would work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you need to show the flooded plain elevation, land subject to flooding as a resource area, besides the bank and the small wetland area.
Right. Yeah, as I said, the architect, I believe, was who had filed this to come before you, and it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So we would normally file a notice of intent and then come before you, but seeing as
Yeah,
we're
the
on the
architect
agenda.
started emailing me, and obviously she didn't know anything about engineering, so I'm like, you should really talk to an engineer before you come talk to us.
Which is fine, so we just took the opportunity to come and
Yeah.
show you what
Yeah,
we
sure.
want to do, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing to have an informal discussion with the commission beforehand. I think it actually helps the applicant.
sure.
We just can't really get into too much with what the proposed project involves, but, to sort of feel out what the commission may want to see,
Thank you.
it makes sense to come in front, we have such a light agenda anyways,
Sure.
Tonight.
tonight.
Okay, November 6th would be too soon for us to come back before you, so I guess
Okay.
I would,
Well, the deadline for November 6th was today, so no, you can't come on November 6th.
yeah.
So-
No, there's a bit too much work ahead of it, but to get this prepared, so.
Well, if you file something, we can be informed that it got into the office, and then maybe we can try to set something up where we can do a site walk
Right,
before the next meeting.
okay.
So it'd be November 20th or December 11th, or the next.
To try to keep
Shoot
the
up to that one.
project moving.
Right. Did you want to add any questions or add anything?
No.
Any comments from the audience? Okay. I have been unfortunately known to ignore some of the audience sometimes. I try not to.
I don't feel ignored at all.
Okay, good, thank you.
Well,
So you all
thank you.
set with, you got enough information?
I believe so.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Do we have anything else? Were you just observing?
I'm a new citizen, sir, and I just wanted to come to the meeting.
Oh, well, welcome.
Nothing on the agenda that I was looking at.
Okay.
My last hometown.
Where'd you move from?
I was in Maryland, Chestertown, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
So I got here in June. I'm a sub in the school system, volunteer at the PAC. I'm trying to get involved.
Oh, good. Nice.
Anyway, thank you for what you do. Thanks for asking me.
Well, welcome to Foxborough.
Thank you. I'm Joe Sanders, retired Army Colonel, believe it or not. I always get the kids laughing at me because I'm Colonel Sanders.
Sanders.
Love
In the school, they love it.
Oh, yeah.
But it gets some credibility right off the bat. They don't mess with me. There you go. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
So John Thomas is able to come to the next meeting, so everybody will be able to meet him.
Okay.
We have the Taylor Road NOI, and then Taylor Road previously had an order for their septic system, so we need a certificate of compliance for that.
Why are we, for the septic system, why are we getting involved?
There was a filing
There was
for
a,
it.
there was a filing, an old filing for that, so we need to do the certificate of compliance for it.
It was within 100 feet of the wetland that drops off in
Okay.
the back.
Oh, I know it, but I thought okay, all right,
It's number 533, so it's a few years old.
Yeah,
Because we're on
okay.
600 and, we're like 100 numbers above that.
yeah.
The gentleman from Garrett Spillane Road called today. remember he had an original landscaper, and then Jane had suggested he talk to this other gentleman. Well, he talked to the other gentleman, and he can't afford him, so he's
Yeah.
going back to the first guy. So he's going to come to the next meeting. He wants to talk about plants, because Jane had sent him a big list of plants, so he wants to kind of narrow that down.
First guy being Linux?
Yes. He was there when
First
we,
landscaper you had? Yeah.
yeah.
So they're not gonna go with the,
No, unfortunately.
he had some good ideas.
But he did
good
have some good
ideas.
ideas, which if he keeps in mind, there are some pretty basic things that he can do
Right.
himself.
Yeah.
Especially little wire cages around
Yeah.
some of those trees that are already starting. So,
And River Ridge, I gave you guys the streets were accepted at town meeting, but they need to do the certificate of compliance. The dates just didn't work out. So they gave me a plan for that.
Yeah.
And 25 West Street, which is 157029, goes back to 1978. They need a certificate of compliance.
What, West Street?
West Street, 25 West Street.
I know where that is, yeah.
They're finding these, every time the economy does something, the banks start doing really, really deep
Banks go a
dives
little
into these
higher.
things, so.
You don't wanna give up the money.
So I think since the interest rates are so high, they're deep diving everything again.
that's.
But I got like 5 of these in like 4 days, all these people calling me up.
Get the runoff from the dam there?
It's got its,
25 West Street? Oh,
Yeah.
its own sign?
it could, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like its own street sign.
Yeah,
Goes in the back.
all right.
Because West Street is the one that goes over the stream into the dam
Yeah.
on the right-hand
Before the
side.
dam.
Yeah, we got a right-of-way to go to that dam, conservation right-of-way.
Yeah,
It goes right by that house.
I couldn't find the original file unless Jane has it with all that West Street Dam stuff somewhere, but it's a handwritten order.
Oh,
oh,
jeez.
David, yeah, that was back, oh, yeah,
Yeah. there was
I mean, part of it's typed up, but all the conditions are handwritten.
yeah,
Gee, I remember doing that. Copy paper.
yeah.
If you make a
All right.
mistake. Can I make a suggestion on River Ridge? I know, I've been monitoring this little by little, but I think we should take a walk as to verifying that they put up the CR boundaries. Bill has mentioned that they did do it, but we should see them.
Okay,
We should also see a couple places that needed some work, and they did improve the maintenance of a couple stormwater systems that were eroding under the heavy rains a year or so ago.
okay,
And we should get familiar with where the streams coming in from the land we're getting, or have gotten, or wait a minute, they haven't given us that land yet.
And, that's a different process that goes through the,
That was a CR
yeah,
because of all the contaminated areas.
yeah, way back,
Yeah, the CR.
yeah,
But we got some parcels that are actually fee that are coming into us. But we also need a key for the gate that they put up that accesses the land in the back for anybody that's going to monitor it. We don't have that. And we should have that for the fire department and/or police department too.
I would hope they would use the standard key. They didn't?
No. I asked Jane about that, the contractor was very nice, he was very good, and the guy that was running it was very good, but we never asked for a key, and they didn't give one, they just put a padlock on it. I mean, it's not, the gate isn't that heavy, it could easily be crashed through if they had to, with a fire truck,
Okay.
so
No sense putting a dent in the fire truck if they don't.
either had to go on the person's lawn next to it. But,
Where's the gate? Is it on this plan?
second page,
I think it's here.
next to lot 10.
Okay,
And the gate is actually, it's maybe 20 feet up off the road.
all right,
It goes uphill to get to the back.
yep,
Parcel B is fee. Parcel A, which is the larger parcel, is also fee. And that has an access on the cul-de-sac, Sousa Avenue, but it's steep like anything. I mean, it just goes right up. So there's no real good access unless you want to be a mountain goat. And the other way to get to Parcel A is part of that isolated land subject to flooding that we had a big discussion about. That's Lot 4, Parcel A. And that goes, you can see Parcel A on the first page.
Yep.
It goes up to the gentleman's parcel that was doing activity up there. The erosion was coming down onto this parcel and the road.
All right.
And I think he knocked out one of the posts, CR notices that Bill had installed.
Intentionally, or?
The way he was digging away up there, Jane mentioned she had a discussion with him, but he was not the most friendliest.
Okay.
Yeah, the CR monuments along boundaries of lots 1 through 11. So Parcel A, you can access off Sousa Avenue, but it's going to be wet. It drops off significantly. But if you go on Belcher Road, you can come in that way.
Yep.
Maybe in the future, have some type of a slight parking area where you could pull over. We got to remember that Chris is redoing Belcher Street with making it wider.
Yep.
So it's going to be cutting away.
Any idea when it's going to do that? I know we walked it a
Right.
while back.
I don't think I think they were looking, he was talking to us about looking into the designing, engineering it, to work on a plan to come up with what has to be done and how wide. And that's why he asked for a walk.
Yep. All right, anything else? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?